Imagine this. You're standing in front of three doors, each hiding a mystery just waiting to be unveiled. Behind one door lies a shiny, brand new car, the ultimate prize, while behind the other two are goats. Monty Hall invites you to choose a door. With confidence, you point to door one. But then Monty, who knows exactly what's behind each door, opens door two, revealing a goat. He turns to you with a sly smile and offers a tantalizing choice. Stick with your original pick or switch to door three. What do? At first glance, it seems like a straightforward 50-50 decision. After all, there are only two doors left, and one of them hides the car. Most people, guided by gut instinct, choose to stay with their initial choice. Even those who try to approach the problem logically often conclude that switching doesn't matter, convinced the odds are equal. But here's the twist, you're wrong. In reality, the optimal strategy is to switch doors, as doing so doubles your chances of winning the car. This counterintuitive puzzle lies at the heart of the Monty Hall problem, a classic probability scenario that continues to baffle, frustrate, and fascinate minds, challenging our understanding of chance and decision-making. Ready to unravel the mystery? The Monty Hall paradox, despite being a solved problem with a widely accepted and mathematically proven solution, continues to be a source of confusion, disbelief, and even outrage. Even though the math is clear, the typical explanations often leave skeptics more baffled than convinced. In this video, I'm going to break down why this paradox is so perplexing and why it sparks such strong reactions. The paradox takes its name from Monty Hall, the charismatic host of the 1960s game show, Let's Make a Deal. On the show, contestants would choose one of three doors, knowing that behind one lay a grand prize, while the other two concealed smaller rewards, or sometimes goats. However, the original game wasn't as rigid as the simplified version we know today. Monty would occasionally offer cash instead of the option to switch, and his decisions were often influenced by what made for better television. Fast forward to 1990, when Marilyn Vos-Savant, renowned for having one of the highest recorded IQs, introduced a streamlined version of the scenario in her Ask Marilyn column. In her version, Monty always reveals a goat and always gives the player the chance to switch doors. The surprising conclusion? Switching doors doubles your odds of winning, increasing them from 1/3 to 2/3. This revelation sparked a firestorm of controversy. Professors, mathematicians, and skeptics flooded Vos-Savant with letters, adamantly insisting she was wrong. Some refused to accept the truth, even when the math undeniably supported her claim. At its core, the Monty Hall problem is a clash between intuition and logic. When we first hear the setup, it's easy to get caught up in the narrative, wondering things like, is Monty trying to trick me? Or can I really trust him? These are natural thoughts, but they miss the point. The math behind the problem doesn't care about Monty's intentions or whether he's playing fair. It's purely about probability. And that's what makes this paradox so fascinating and frustrating at the same time. At its heart, the Monty Hall problem is all about simplifying the scenario to focus purely on probabilities. By stripping away the human element, whether you're suspicious of Monty or questioning his motives, we can see the numbers for what they truly are and arrive at a clear, logical answer. In real life, it might make sense to ask those psychological questions, but with this paradox, solving the abstract problem gives you the solution. You just have to trust the math. To do that, you need to understand the game's strict rules. There are three doors, one hides a car, and the other two hide goats. You pick a door. Monty opens a different door, revealing a goat. You're given the option to switch to the remaining closed door. In this version, Monty is essentially a robot, acting without bias or hidden motives. To make it even clearer, we could add a rule. If Monty can choose between two goats, he always picks the lower numbered door or flips a coin. This doesn't affect the probabilities. It simply removes any uncertainty about his actions. In the example we started with, this rule wasn't spelled out explicitly, but the critical piece is that Monty knows where the car is and always opens a door with a goat that isn't yours. That's the key to why switching is the better move. You just have to accept these rules to fully understand why the math works the way it does. Once you do, the paradox transforms from a source of confusion into a brilliant demonstration of probability in action. Let's dive into Marilyn Vos Savant's ingenious 100 doors, 99 goats explanation. A clever way to make the Monty Hall problem easier to grasp by exaggerating the setup. By scaling up the scenario, the logic behind switching becomes far more obvious, or at least that's the idea. Here's how it works. Imagine you're faced with 100 doors. Behind one of them is a brand new car, and behind the other, 99 are goats. Monty Hall asks you to pick a door, and you choose door 1. Now Monty begins opening the other doors one by one, revealing goats behind each. He starts with door 2 and continues all the way to door 100, with one curious exception. He skips over door 29. So after this dramatic reveal, there are only 2 unopened doors left. Door 1, your original pick, and door 29, the one Monty intentionally left closed. Monty then offers you the chance to switch to door 29. What should you do? At this point, most people instinctively lean toward switching. The fact that Monty left one specific door unopened out of 99 feels deliberate, and intuitively, it seems like door 29 must be the better choice. And they'd be right. Switching is the better move because the odds of winning shift dramatically in your favor. But why? When you initially picked door 1, there was only a 1 in 100 chance that you chose the car and a 99 out of 100 chance that the car was behind one of the other doors. Monty's actions don't change those initial odds. They simply redistribute the 99 out of 100 probability across the remaining unopened doors. By the time Monty reveals goats behind all but one of those doors, all of that probability condenses onto the single unopened door, door 29. Switching gives you a 99% chance of winning the car, compared to just 1% if you stick with your original choice. However, there's a big catch. While this explanation is powerful, it's not perfect. It relies heavily on abstract thinking and the ability to generalize insights from one scenario to another. Scaling up to 100 doors makes the advantage of switching feel obvious in this exaggerated context, but it requires a mental leap to apply the same logic back to the original 3-door problem. Here's why. In the 100-door example, the scale is so extreme that it's easy to focus on the specific numbers and the unusual setup. You're looking at 99 doors being eliminated, which makes door 29 stand out as the clear contender. But when you scale it back down to 3 doors, the intuition isn't as straightforward, and the psychological resistance to switching becomes stronger. This is why the Monty Hall problem remains such a fascinating paradox. It challenges us to reconcile our instincts with the cold, hard logic of probability is always the better strategy. The principle at play, how probabilities redistribute after Monty reveals the goats, applies just as much to the 3-door version as it does to the 100-door version. The challenge lies in helping people see that the math remains consistent, regardless of the number of doors. Without making this connection clear, the 100 doors, 99 goats explanation can feel disconnected or even confusing. People might view it as an entirely different problem rather than an exaggerated version of the same one. To fully grasp the Monty Hall paradox, it's crucial to focus not on the size of the setup, but on how Monty's actions shift the odds. In both scenarios, Monty's knowledge of what's behind each door and his deliberate choice to reveal only goats fundamentally changes the probability landscape. This is the key insight. Switching doors leverages the redistribution of probabilities in your favor, whether you're dealing with 3 doors or 100. Understanding this principle is what unlocks the paradox and reveals why switching is always the optimal move. This is where the concept of conditional probability comes into play. The key to understanding why the odds don't reset to 50-50 lies in recognizing that Monty's action of revealing a goat is not random. It's a deliberate choice based on the information he has. When you first pick a door, there's a 1/3 chance you've chosen the car and a 2/3 chance it's behind one of the other 2 doors. Monty's decision to open a door and reveal a goat is constrained by the rules. He always knows where the car is and always avoids opening that door. This means his action provides additional information that updates the probabilities. Let's break it down further. If you initially picked a goat, which has a 2/3 probability, Monty is forced to reveal the only remaining goat leaving the car as the only option behind the unopened door. This is why switching wins in 2 out of 3 scenarios. On the other hand, if you initially pick the car, which has a 1/3 probability, Monty can open either of the other 2 doors, both hiding goats, and switching would lead you to a goat. This is why staying wins in only 1 out of 3 scenarios. The exhaustive search method lays this out clearly, but it doesn't always address the psychological hurdle of why Monty's reveal doesn't reset the odds. The reason is that the initial probabilities are fixed the moment you make your first choice, and Monty's subsequent action is entirely dependent on that choice. His reveal doesn't create a new, independent 50-50 scenario. It simply reflects the information already embedded in the initial probabilities. This is why switching doors doubles your chances of winning, and why the exhaustive search, while definitive, often needs to be paired with an explanation of the underlying probability principles to fully convince skeptics. It's not just about seeing the outcomes, it's about understanding why those outcomes occur. Solution. To bridge this gap, let's reframe the problem in a way that highlights the power of grouping probabilities. When you first choose a door, you're essentially dividing the doors into 2 groups. Your chosen door, with a 1/3 chance of having the car, and the group of unchosen doors, with a combined 2/3 chance of having the car. Monty's reveal of a goat behind one of the unchosen doors doesn't change the initial probabilities. It simply concentrates the 2/3 probability onto the single remaining unopened door in the unchosen group. Think of it this way. By switching, you're not just choosing a different door. You're effectively betting on the entire group of unchosen doors, which collectively had a higher probability of containing the car from the start. Monty's action of revealing a goat is like opening a window into that group, showing you where the car isn't and leaving the door with the car as the only option in that group. This is why switching gives you a 2/3 chance of winning. It's not about the individual doors, but about the probabilities tied to the groups. The counterintuitive part comes from our tendency to think of the doors as independent choices rather than as part of a larger probabilistic framework. When Monty opens a door, it feels like the game resets, and we're left with 2 equally likely options. But in reality, the probabilities are still anchored to the initial choice. The unchosen group retains its 2/3 probability, and switching allows you to claim that advantage. This perspective, viewing the problem as a choice between your initial pick and the combined probabilities of the unchosen doors, helps clarify why switching is the optimal strategy. It's not about luck or intuition. It's about understanding how probabilities redistribute and using that knowledge to your advantage. The Bayesian reasoning strategy is the favorite explanation among statisticians for the Monty Hall problem. This approach meticulously accounts for every detail, offering a rigorous way to understand why switching doors is the better strategy. To follow this reasoning, you need to understand, or at least accept, that probabilities must be updated based on new information. And the correct way to do this is by applying Bayes' rule. The right-hand side of Bayes' rule represents the probability of A given B. In simpler terms, B is something we already know or have just learned to be true. For example, let's say we picked door 1 and Monty revealed a goat behind door 3. Now we want to calculate the probability that the car is behind door 2, given that Monty showed us a goat behind door 3. To do this, we apply Bayes' rule. But first, we need 3 probabilities that make up the right-hand side of the equation. First, the probability that Monty opens door 3, given that the car is behind door 2, is 1. In this case, Monty has no choice. If the car is behind door 2, he must reveal the goat behind door 3. Secondly, the probability that the car is behind door 2, unconditional on anything, is 1/3. This is the prior probability, representing the chance of guessing the correct door at the start. Lastly, the probability that Monty opens door 3 without knowing the car's location is 1/2. Here we imagine that Monty doesn't know where the car is, so he has a 50% chance of opening either door 3 or door 2. Now, plugging these probabilities into Bayes' rule gives us the answer. The car has a 2/3 probability of being behind the door we didn't choose. In other words, switching is the better strategy. You might wonder if the same logic applies to your original choice, door 1. It doesn't. While the second 2 probabilities remain the same, The first one, the probability that Monty opens door 3, given that the car is behind door 1, is different, which is why the math leads to a different result. The probability that Monty opens door 3, given that the car is behind door 1, is not 1. In this situation, Monty has a choice. He can open either door 2 or door 3. This means the probability of him opening door 3 is 1/2. Plugging this into the calculation confirms that the car has a 1/3 chance of being behind your original choice. To truly understand this, it helps to walk through the process step by step at your own pace. Redoing the calculations yourself can make the logic much clearer. If you do, you'll see for yourself how the numbers consistently reveal why switching gives you better odds. Bayesian reasoning not only provides a mathematical framework for solving the Monty Hall problem, but also deepens your understanding of how probabilities update with new information, making it a powerful tool for tackling similar puzzles explained. This is why some people will never fully understand or accept the Monty Hall paradox. The difficulty lies not in the complexity of the math, but in the challenge it poses to our natural way of thinking. The paradox forces us to confront and override deeply rooted intuitions about fairness, randomness, and probability. When Monty reveals a goat, most people instinctively believe that the remaining 2 options must be equally likely. This feels fair because it aligns with our sense of symmetry. 2 doors left, 1 car, so it must be a 50-50 chance. But the paradox challenges this intuition by revealing a deeper truth. Probabilities aren't static. They can change based on new information, even when the physical setup remains unchanged. What makes this even harder to accept is that this shift in probabilities isn't immediately visible. Monty's reveal doesn't feel like it should affect the odds because he isn't adding or removing a car or a door. He's just showing us something we didn't know yet. This act of revealing a goat redistributes the probabilities, concentrating the chances of the car being behind the unchosen door. This subtle shift is deeply unintuitive because it's not how we naturally process randomness or fairness. We want to believe that the remaining options are equal because that's what seems simple and fair. For those who can trust the abstraction and focus solely on the math, the solution becomes clear. Switching gives you a 2/3 chance of winning, while staying leaves you with only a 1/3 chance. The math doesn't lie and it provides an undeniable answer. But for those who remain tied to the narrative, where Monty's reveal feels like a random event that resets the game, the solution feels wrong, no matter how it's explained. This disconnect between intuition and mathematical truth is what makes the Monty Hall paradox so enduringly perplexing. It's not just a puzzle about probabilities. It's a lesson in how our minds grapple with abstract concepts and why, sometimes, trusting the numbers is harder than it seems. The Monty Hall paradox is more than just a game. It's a profound reflection of how we approach complex problems in everyday life. For many, the logic of the paradox never quite clicks because they focus on the story rather than the probabilities. When faced with uncertainty, we tend to rely on our instincts, which are shaped by experience and intuition. However, in scenarios like this, those instincts can be misleading. The Monty Hall paradox teaches us that the tools of abstraction, simplification, and mathematical reasoning are essential for making sense of situations that aren't immediately intuitive. At its core, the paradox underscores the concept of conditional probability, how new information, such as the host revealing a goat, fundamentally reshapes the likelihood of different outcomes. This principle is indispensable in domains like statistics, finance, and decision-making processes, where the arrival of new data necessitates a reassessment of prior probabilities. Educators frequently turn to the Monty Hall paradox to illuminate key ideas about probability, decision-making under uncertainty, and the critical importance of adapting decisions in light of new information. By confronting and often overturning our intuitive expectations, it encourages critical thinking and sharpens analytical skills. The paradox also finds practical relevance in real-world scenarios, such as investigative work or search and rescue missions. For example, reevaluating the search area based on emerging clues can dramatically improve the chances of success. This ability to integrate new information and refine strategies reflects the profound value of understanding and applying the lessons of conditional probability. Monty's game is a microcosm of larger challenges we encounter in life. Whether it's making decisions based on incomplete information, managing risks, or interpreting data, we often face situations where our gut feelings conflict with logic. In these moments, trusting the math or the underlying principles can guide us to better outcomes, even if it doesn't feel right at first. The Monty Hall paradox teaches us that trusting logic over instinct can lead to better outcomes. Whether you're deciding between doors, figuring out life's puzzles, or, deciding whether to hit that subscribe button. Spoiler, subscribing gives you a 2 in 3 chance of never missing a great video. Okay, maybe it's closer to 100%, but who's counting? Thank you for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, check out this video where we talked about game theory. I'm sure you'll love it.